The Fit for the 21st Century Act is a historic first step to give regulatory form to the financial system of the future, the digital asset ecosystem. We see many faults and failures with the current regime. Major crypto exchanges currently today have no federal law that they operate under. The Securities and Exchange Commission and the CFTC are arguing over jurisdiction. Congress created the agencies, and when they haggle, they either go to the courts, which they've done, and the courts resolve it. We've seen a case via the Ripple lawsuit that Mr. Sherman referenced. It provides less clarity and less consumer protection for average everyday investors than it does for institutional investors. It is in Congress's interest to remedy that. It is in Congress's interest to remedy the dispute between the CFTC and the SEC amidst $1 trillion of consumer harm. Foreign actors operating here domestically and consumers having their money taken. So we need to clarify this for consumer protection, number one. And number two, for innovation to be able to flourish. Legitimate money to invest in legitimate products and institutions that can enable some greater public good. There's huge potential here. The ranking member and I agree about the huge potential here. This is an innovation in part in traditional securities law on Maine. The dispute between this committee and the Agriculture Committee that has oversight of the CFTC is real. We could either haggle and consumers continue to get harmed and Americans get defrauded and less innovation here in America and those innovators going overseas and their tax revenue, to my friends. Or we can remedy it. We can stop the haggling. We can have an understanding that the Agriculture Committee and the CFTC, which we've got many Ag members on this committee, including the ranking member of the Ag Committee. They have consumer protection here. So what we have here is a pathway by which you can raise money in our securities regime. You have the consumer protections of the securities realm for investment purposes. And if you have a true innovation that is decentralized in a functional network, then it operates like a commodity, it then leaves the securities regulatory remit and immediately goes into consumer protections and a regulatory remit in the CFTC. Now, we rarely do joint referrals in committee and Congress well. We have primary referral of this bill that Congressman Hill has led this effort on crafting. We've had 2 bipartisan page turns. We've spent 5 hours with a text open with groups of experts to look at the text. We've had huge feedback from both Democrats and Republicans on this bill and the industry, innovators, consumer protection advocates, and we've taken as many of those things as possible and built it into the text here. We've made some choices, yes, and maybe they're not perfect, sure, and we'll hear about all those things. But there is no commingling. The worst practices of FTX are banned in this bill. It is better, at worst case, than what we have currently, which is no consumer protection. And the hopes that the court will understand the complexities of securities and commodities laws and the technology. We have to wrestle with it. It's Congress's obligation to wrestle with it. But how we got here was a collaborative process. A number of hearings, a large number of hearings. An unprecedented bipartisan page turn to go through the text of the bill, to hear feedback, to make it better, to make it right. We didn't have this for major bills in this Congress. In fact, the first time I saw that happen was when we did this 3 weeks ago in committee, and last week when we did it again. How we got here, though, is the work of Glenn Thompson and the Ag Committee and his legislating in previous Congresses. It was unprecedented and unparalleled leadership of the Republican whip Tom Emmer in his approach to defining and clarifying securities law for digital assets. He has been the foremost advocate here. It's the work of Warren Davidson and his legislating to provide that clarity. It's the focus on innovation and fintech in the work of French Hill that has led us here, and my Democrat colleagues who have participated in mighty ways, as I think we'll hear in this markup, in important ways to make this better. And I urge you, whether or not you like digital assets and think it's the future or you think it's the bane of existence, we need to pass this bill, and consumers and Americans will be better off for it, whether you like it or don't like it as a technology. With that, I yield back.